handing over to this whole break. You do get up and do a little bit of stretching and moving around as we have another 45 minutes together this afternoon. So take a minute or two to stretch. Just about 30 seconds, we'll get started. So please, if you are back, thank you for removing your coffee cups so that I know it's okay to continue. Great. Okay. While we are waiting for your colleagues to return, I just want to remind you real quick the digital toolkit that you have access to, which is, again, lots of great research done by the Wellbeing Project, the people who brought you your report, which we're going to help you dive into momentarily. Here we go. It's time. All this to say that I'm just going to chat the link. And Shelby, no, I meant the next breakout. So go ahead, please make sure that you click on that link so that you have access to these wonderful resilience toolkits from today's session. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to invite you to consider the topic of resilience in smaller, more intimate groups. And so Shelby is going to put you in a breakout room momentarily, and the groups are going to be only 4 or 5. And what I'm going to ask you to do is share with each other. First of all, have your snapshot handy and consider what are some of the areas where you felt you could be enhancing your own resiliency. I know when I took mine, that future focus and flexible thinking were the two where I had a little bit of work to do. And this is like a muscle, right? So the more you build it, the better it gets. So is there anything that surprised you or shocked you in your report that you'll want to share with your colleagues? And there's a section of it that talks about recommendation actions or whatnot. So in your breakout rooms, I'm going to have you discuss the questions on this slide. First, share with each other your best practices around resilience personally. And then second, what are you doing to help your team be resilient? So this is an opportunity to share and learn from each other. I'm going to ask you to just document. Maybe you have a scribe that uses a whiteboard, and when we come back, we're just going to hear from a spokesperson from each group to summarize what they learned from the discussion for the entire group. So Shelby, let me turn it over to you for timing and other such directions. Perfect. Thank you. So in a moment, I'm just going to go ahead and unmute everyone so that you can have an open dialogue when you are in your breakout rooms. You're going to get 2 notifications that pop up on your screen. Just select yes to both. The first one is asking you to join your breakout, and the second one is asking you to transfer your audio over. You are going to be in the breakout for 7 minutes. And if you do want to bring up a whiteboard, you can do so by going to share, which you'll see up at the file edit share. Click on share and then just select whiteboard. And then I'm just going to get the following 3 people to just give me a check mark beside your name so we know that you're here, because you are going to be the host or representative for your group, and you'll be in charge of opening your breakout session. So group 1 is going to be Anita. So just a check mark by your name. Group 2 is Christine, and group 3 is Paul. So I could just get, thank you, Christine. Paul, thank you. Anita, awesome, thank you. So we are going to unmute. You might hear some background noise in just 1 second. And again, you will have 7 minutes. And those notifications are popping up now. Report and the A will be. Yeah. Does your version equal? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, we'll already use for 1595. Yeah. You're gonna get fun anyway. Stuff. Yeah. Yes. Ready for your once you saw but all right. So I think we can hear. Okay, so we keep it slowly going in. Right, 7 QA by October. I think that there's a side conversation on something happening. The UAT and Rajiv and Aisha. Chidima, if you want to click the button so that you can go into the breakout room. Chidima was sent back. Abdul, did you have your message? Abdul is still here.
Venkat.
I think, and I mean, I see the little exclamation mark, so it must be that they're not back.
Mm-hmm. So they're off mute, but they are still with us. But I will start the timer.
Yeah. So did we assign a spokesperson for each group, or?
Yes, the 3 people whose names I called, they're kind of like the hosts, and they will just talk.
Okay, I didn't realize that they were the talkers too. I thought they just needed to open the breakout rooms. Good. Well, it looks like now Venkat's still here and Abdul, but I think Chidima is now in her room, right?
Yeah, she went. Perfect.
Just going to flip through the slides for a second.
Yeah, right now when you're flipping through the slides, we can't see it just because I have the ball.
Got it.
You're fine.
Perfect. Okay. Anthony, if you're there, just while we're alone, thank you for accommodating tomorrow instead of today. I'm going to have to bounce right at the hour, but I just wanted to say thank you. I'm taking some notes so that then I can have a robust discussion.
Oh, awesome. Yes, I'm here. No worries about that. It seemed that it worked out well because as soon as I canceled or moved that meeting for tomorrow, my manager booked that time for our
There you go.
So I'm gonna bounce too.
That's awesome. Tell me, Patrick left us.
Yes, sorry. He didn't want to distract you or anything, but he said that you're doing a great job. I'm here, and so he said that he was going to take the time and go work on something else.
Okay.
But yeah, no worries about that. Nothing to do with you.
Perfect.
And yeah, I think we're doing great. And I think even timing wise, and Shelby, if you're on the line, we gave them 7 minutes. Is that
7 minutes.
correct?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
it's perfect. And then I'm just going to ask, just to summarize for Anita, Christine, and Paul to summarize thoughts and then move on. So we had originally 25 minutes for this breakout, but I think it's going to be more than 20, so I can make up my 5 minutes.
I see. Yeah. So you make that judgment call to
Yep.
modify it as you see fit. Yeah.
We'll do. How much longer do they have, Shelby?
Just like a minute and a half, not even.
Okay.
I'll be closing them at in 40 seconds, and they'll come back at 30 seconds later. Great. So 3:28, they will be back.
All right. Shelby, would you also let me know when everyone's back? I think there's one group that's back.
For sure, yes.
Awesome. Thanks. Hey, welcome back, everyone. I'm just going to give it a minute for everybody to return.
And then we're all back now.
All right. I hope that was a fruitful conversation. Paul, your group was back first. Can I invite you to come off mute and give us the overview of, what you learned from the discussion? Any best practices to share with the broader group in order to help your team with their ability to be resilient?
Sure. I think I can start off. The biggest thing I think many of us agreed on was leading by example.
Okay.
So, which is hard, at least for me. And I think the other thing is just trying to give permission to our team members, those of us who manage people, right? To say, hey, it's the end of the day. I think someone said, no more green circles on your status. Enough. Okay, it's time to hang it up, and that's okay, right? And try to make sure that everyone's taking time for themselves. So those were a couple of themes. And I think the other one that seemed to resonate was trying to, for ourselves, try to introduce exercise. The thing I try to do, and I personally fail at a lot of times, but man, does it ever feel good to take a quick walk, right? So I think that's something that some of us are finding successful.
Beautiful. So on that first best practice around personal resilience, Paul, sometimes people get stuck because they think exercise and then they think I'm going to have to dedicate an hour of my day. And to your point, no, it can be just about the quick walk. It's about getting started. On the team front, everybody, I loved what I heard. Giving permission was one of them as well, and leading by example. So take note if that didn't come up in your group through two wonderful ideas. Thank you so much. Christine, how about your group? Anything different? Anything to add?
Yeah, we actually had a whiteboard, so I'm not sure we can bring it up.
Oh, please. Yeah.
I don't know.
Shelby, I'll just have to bring it up so you'll get the notification right now.
Yes. And I'm
there we go. Awesome.
Okay, so first, can you guys see the whiteboard?
We can.
Great. So what are we doing today to practice resilience? Some of the feedback is that we, because of COVID, we somehow lost relationships with people, right? So there's a conversation around refocusing on building those strained relationships, and then there's also listening from team members, focusing on physical activity, and then finding ways to keep motivated. That's what we're doing today. And then for the second category, in terms of what are we doing to improve resilience for our team, Laura mentioned that she's building a vision or mission statement for the team that is future focused. And then there's also conversations and discussions with the team. What did we learn from this discussion? I guess the last comment there did not transfer before we jump back to the main room. I think there is a conversation around that it's not always about work. We don't have to focus about work all the time in our conversations with the team.
I like that. Thank you, Christine. Laura, may I ask you to come off mute? I think one double-click question for me is around the vision and mission statement, which is great because, North Star or that sense of, I have a reason to get out of bed in the morning because I'm contributing to something bigger than myself. Are you building it with the team? Are you proposing it to the team? Give us a little bit more detail around how that's working for you, if you don't mind.
You bet. So I hope everybody can hear me. So for us, a mission statement is important, obviously, for this future focus. But in my group that I lead, we are so goal-orientated with numbers that sometimes we lose sight of our value in the everyday accomplishments, kind of going back to that gratitude. What are we thankful and grateful for each day? Yeah. So if we build a vision and a mission statement that is a little bit more service-orientated rather than and I use a line a lot, instead of return on investment, it's return on impact. Oh, yeah. So that we understand how we impact everything all day long versus the dollar amounts back into the company. That is important. But return on impact is a big piece in our world.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for being the spokesperson for the group, Christine. Anita, anything your team talked about that hasn't been discussed just yet?
If you can bring up my whiteboard, I can't. That would be great.
Awesome. Let Shelby work her magic. Should see here in a moment. Shelby, yes. Did you get the notification? There we go. I see it. Perfect.
There we go. I can see it now. So for the first question, share the best practices. Our team mentioned, finding ways to adapt to the change, understanding the change will help lead them through the change. Again, we focus on understanding the change, having an open mindset about the change. And then the interesting one is understanding the why behind the change will help the team. What are we doing now to help your team through the ability through the ability to be resilient? Just letting them know it's okay to make mistakes and look at it as an opportunity and a way to grow versus being a negative thing. Regular routine, even at home, set hours, and don't feel guilty about having logging off after your set hours. And I think someone mentioned act as if you were going to a commute. Log off and take that time to unwind. The last one, what have we learned from this discussion? The resources available to assist us and the team, and focusing on what we can influence, and if we can, let it go.
Nice. Thank you very much, Anita. You know what I loved about the fact, and on behalf of all your teams, I know you were the spokespeople and everybody contributed to this conversation, but just a great reminder for me that no two brains are wired alike. And what I mean by that is that, interestingly, the three different groups talked about three different things, and that are all still very relevant. So I hope that was useful for all of you to hear from each of the groups. Leonard Cohen, what an artist, huh? Love this quote. And for me, what it means is that everything is damaged to some degree, but it is in the damage that we see the opportunity and the hope. And why am I quoting Leonard Cohen here? And how does this relate to resilience? We all experience pressure, and we may even experience some trauma from that pressure, but we don't have to be forever damaged, because it can create something even more durable and valuable and more beautiful as a result of the pressure. I'm also, as I now thinking about this quote, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the practice of Kitsuki, or when a bowl becomes cracked. I was watching Nine Perfect Strangers, total sidebar, but at one point, Nicole Kidman shows a cracked bowl, and the cracks have been painted with gold, and it's a Japanese tradition to do that. The point being that the bowl becomes more valuable once it's been cracked. And so I think that we all experience pressure no matter what role we play at RBC. Sometimes that pressure might be overwhelming for ourselves and for our team. And I want to give you some of the science around the impact of pressure on performance so that you can understand how to help your team function or thrive better. So this is, again, from the Wellbeing Project, but the idea here is to be mindful of the effects of pressure. And we need stress. Right? We need some pressure because if we don't have some, we're bored. And if you can see, the minimum there's boredom, and then there are our comfort zone, but you can see that at one point in time in the pink zone, there's a precipitous drop, which is hard to come back from. And what this is telling us is that there is an optimum range for pressure. So there might be some people that you work with that are in the zone of boredom because life as they know it has slowed significantly and their work has been impacted. I'll give you the example. Pre-COVID, I traveled 5 days a week. I did about 250 flights a year because I would deliver content. And at the very beginning of COVID, when travel came to a screeching halt, and nobody knew what they were going to be doing for the short term, I was in that little gray zone for a little while. And if you stay there too long, then, it's again, not better than being in the strain or the crisis zone. So you might have people on that end of the spectrum, but you might have people in your team that are in stretch or strain because their roles have pivoted them into rapid response in real time. Like, for example, I would imagine many of the frontline and support employees at RBC. Think about first responders, for example, and what life has been like for them in the last little while. And so the idea here, and many of us, to Paul's point earlier, right, dealing with the realities of social and physical distancing and working remotely and integrating work and life, maybe we don't have access to our usual coping strategies like going to the gym. And so we need to be paying attention on where we are at on this continuum because it's about making sure that we are in the optimum performance zone and not at the one or the other end of the spectrum. And so let's do a whiteboard for this activity. How do you know that your team, and I'll put is dipping into strain or crisis, right? So where the performance needs to increase, but the fatigue and the anxiety and the feeling less in control, and we just tipped. We're not at the optimum anymore. Now we're sliding back down into strain or crisis, which I'll define as exhaustion, burnout, physical and mental health problems. What are some of the telltale signs? If you could just grab some real estate on the whiteboard or put something in the chat for me, how would you know? That was a great question, Christine. I don't know. An ice cream truck rolling in the background. Were you hearing the fun little ice cream truck music? All right. How do you know your team is dipping into the crisis or the strain zone? Once you've texted something, make sure you hit enter so that we can see it. Short-tempered. Short fuse, right, Andre? They just answer very succinctly and with that edgy voice. Oh, withdrawn from conversations, need to take more breaks. This is good. I'd love some more, please. As a matter of fact, I'd love to hear from everyone. Oh, they're only okay. So, Dino, maybe they're saying the words I'm okay, but the body language isn't matching. Got it.
And Sharon just put in the chat, less engagement and participation in meetings.
Yeah. So now we're in strain, right? And when we get into crisis, sometimes with that lack of engagement, we maybe see a little bit of absenteeism. And that's when things have gotten like way too bad. Now we're going to need to do something. Okay, good. Some great ideas. Those of you who I haven't heard from, I'm going to call on you for the next one. Here are some telltale signs, right? It's been months now. And so I think it's only natural that sometimes some of our team members will tip into strain. So your ideas were great. Just watch for these signs, as you can see on my slide. And, especially as we're leading remotely, it can be more difficult to get a handle on these behaviors. So the opportunity here for us is to make sure that the lines of communication are open so that you catch this behavior as early as you possibly can, right? So that you can address it. The words, to Dino's point, represent only 7% of how we communicate, but watch for less engagement. Maybe sometimes I've seen struggling to make decisions or getting organized, or everything seems to be a problem and there's no solutions, and all of that ruminating and catastrophizing, all that type of thinking comes up. So just be on the lookout for these signs, and knowing that some stress is normal. Some scientists refer to good stress as eustress, EU stress. We need some of that to build our resilience muscle. What we're trying to make sure we don't do is tip into what we call distress, because stress in and of itself is not a bad thing. It's the body's natural reaction to an external event. Positive stress that help us learn and grow, eustress, great. We need to just cool back down sometimes, but this is also about making sure that we notice the signs of distress, and some is normal, and then make sure that we are putting our oxygen mask on first, but also I loved what Paul was saying, let the team know that it's okay to disconnect, and help each other when you're seeing the signs of stress arising. And as always, empathy, right? One of the best ways to become present and return to the breath, because a lot of times our anxiety is created either by our thoughts of the past or our worries about the future, is to have a mindfulness practice. Can you give me a little green check in the chat if this is something that you do? Mindfulness is different than meditation. Meditation is a practice. Mindfulness is more of a state of awareness. Meditation is what helps us get there. So let's do a quick mindfulness exercise. I will invite you to just close your eyes for a moment. Don't worry, I will let you know when to open them again, and just focus on your breathing for a moment. Focus on inhalation and exhalation. Focus on the sensation of the air entering your body, filling your lungs. And then focus on the sensation of the air leaving your lungs, leaving your body. Notice the thoughts that are going through your mind, but just don't judgment. No judgment. They're just there. Continue to just focus on your breathing, and if your mind wanders, just bring your thoughts back to your breath. Take one more deep inhale and one more exhale. And then when you're ready, just close your practice by bringing your conscious back to the here and now. All right. Just the quickest way to get our limbic system to the energy to go back to our prefrontal cortex is to do that quick breathing exercise. And there are lots of apps out there that can help with this. Calm is one that I know. If there are other apps that you use for mindfulness and meditation, could you please put them in the chat for our benefit if you have this as a practice? At RBC, you've got lots of tools. Yeah, Headspace for free, Anthony. That's true. Headspace, Fitbit, until April 22. You've got Headspace for free through RBC. Sue Brady leads Unplugged. She's a mindfulness coach that you can tap into, which you have access to. And there are lots and lots of groups. I'm going to ask Shelby to send you the link in the chat if this is something that you want to share with your team or for your own practice. The last thing we're going to talk about here is the impact of resilience on mood and performance, and you've probably heard the expression, emotions are contagious, yes? So as a leader or manager, you carry a huge amount of influence in terms of the mood of your team. I remember working for a leader who had high emotional awareness and was very conscious of the impact of his mood on his team, but also working for the opposite. And I often hear people say that the way their boss says hello at the start of a conversation tells them all they need to know about how the meeting's going to go. And so this mood map that you see up here helps us understand what's at play in terms of the hormones and the chemicals in our body that are stimulated in different ways and by different things. And so I want you to, think about in terms of context, where you might be at and where people that you are with might be at in terms of well-being or not, and where intervention might be needed. And so basically in our body, there are a number of neurochemicals, such as adrenaline, which you see at the top in the north point, which is a hormone and a neurotransmitter. It's that crucial component of fight or flight stress response. So the minute fight or flight kicks in, adrenaline is what increases your heart rate and your respiratory rate. You've got serotonin, that adrenaline is in the north position. In the south position, again, another neurotransmitter. 90% of your serotonin is located in your gut, and that's what regulates mood, appetite, sleep, intestinal movements. Dopamine on the east axis is the neurotransmitter that's associated with our pleasure and reward circuitry. It links with learning, attention, memory, desire, pleasure, punishment, reward, motivation, etc., and of course your mood. And then cortisol is also a hormone that's produced by the adrenal gland on the west position of this 4-box grid. That is the stress hormone. Right? It gets released so that it restores homeostasis, and it increases blood pressure and shuts down some of our systems, such as, for example, and stimulates gastric acid secretion. That's why people get ulcers. And so this mood map, what it does is it outlines the 4 zones or quadrants to give us an overview of our mood. So if we're in the high stress zone, the red zone, there is too much adrenaline and cortisol floating through our body. We might have a high level of energy, but it's not positive energy. And that's where we're likely to be displaying negative behaviors, and where it might be a little bit hard to share, to maintain positive relationships. We're not really productive in that zone for a long time. The high performance zone, the green zone, that's where we have a mix of adrenaline and dopamine, that eustress. We're in a high positive energy, flow, focused, motivated, positive influence of people around us. We're productive, efficient. In the revived zone, the yellow zone, that's where we have a perfect mean of dopamine and serotonin. It's that calm, positive energy, relaxed, reflective. That's where we're most likely to be at our most creative and solution-oriented. We can spend time there alone or with friends, but mentally, we're really mentally productive once after we've been in the revived zone for a little bit. And then in the exhausted zone, the gray zone, that's where there's an unhealthy level of cortisol and serotonin. Low, negative energy. Sometimes you feel anxious, isolated, overwhelmed, even a little bit depressed in this zone. You're not productive. You've got no energy, no motivation, and no drive. And so when we're operating in the high green zone, then obviously we're feeling energized. And then in the yellow revived zone, well, we go to recalibrate there and chill while we take stock to re-energize. So that, yellow zone's important. It's all about rest and relaxation. While on the other side of the map, that's a little bit of a different story, like tired and wired, right? While the green and the yellow zones have revitalizing and productive qualities, the gray and the red zone are associated with long-term exhaustion and burnout. And so the idea here is, obviously we all operate across all 4 zones of the mood map. The key to long-term resilience and to be able to access and enjoy all the benefits of the right-hand side of the map is to focus on ensuring that we regularly access the yellow zone. And some of your I I would invite you to look for the behaviors of your team members to understand where they're at on this mood map so that you can help them regulate, right? How are they interacting with other people? Ask them how they're feeling in the check-ins, etc. Offer support if you think they need it. Again, remember, we're not therapists, so if it feels like it's outside of your ability zone, then it probably is. And beyond mood, there are some other signs of strain. We call this the accountability ladder. And what we're looking to do is build understanding and insight to allow us to move up the ladder in relation to resilience and well-being. You've heard the expression, words make worlds. Our actions and our words have an impact on our teams because they're role models, right? And so what you're wanting to do here is figure out where you're standing on this accountability ladder so that you are showing up as powerfully as possible for your team members. All right. So check-ins, well-being conversations, super important, obviously. I know you do this already. So I'm going to go fast here. Can you just give me a check mark if you all master the art of checking in? The concepts are the same, right? Figure out, listening to understand, we've talked about, asking open-ended, non-judgmental questions, using examples. Exactly. Thank you. Absolutely. Great. So let's do a couple of case studies just to bring all this home. You notice that your team member, Kelly, has been working all hours of the day and night and is rarely taking a break. Kelly's work isn't suffering, but you're concerned about work-life balance. What would you discuss with Kelly? Go ahead and put an idea in the chat for me, if you would. And we're going to do this speed because I want to make sure that I get you out of here on time as promised. So what would you be discussing with Kelly in your check-in? The first person to chat in something gets a bonus cookie. I like to hand out virtual cookies at the end of my training sessions. Thank you, Andre. Normalize that it's okay to work an 8-hour workday. Let me know if you prefer chocolate chip or oatmeal. Who else? Maybe I've got some more virtual cookies to hand out. Thanks, Andre. If I get nothing in the chat, I just ask people to come off mute. Oh, Paul, I like that. Let's do a walking meeting. La marche dialogique, we call it in French, where you can, sometimes we think better when we're walking because there's more oxygen flowing through our brains. Lovely. Merci. Other thoughts? All right. Anne, a member of your team with small children at home has confessed to feeling overwhelmed at times with her workload and responsibilities. What are you discussing with Anne? All right, I got some more here. And probably Sharon's and Christine's could apply to both scenarios. You've been busy. What's keeping you so busy? See if she wants to talk about it. Awesome. Antonietta, why don't you come off mute? Tell us what you think.
Hi. I would just talk to her with empathy and just listen to see what exactly, is going on at home with the children, the resources. Just basically listen and let her talk. Maybe sometimes they open up more to, I don't want to say a stranger because we work with them, but, sometimes a family member can be a bit biased, but someone, from work or, a stranger, sometimes they listen a little bit better and they're not biased.
Yeah, thank you. And to Anita's point, if what's going on for Anne is outside of our area of responsibility, the EAP might be a good idea. But to your point, Anietta, we won't know until we listen.
Right.
Oh, I like that. And Christine says if it's just time for herself and self-care, if budget allows, send a gift card for a meal. Wow. All right. So, resilient leader reflections. You see these on the screen. This is about you having a plan in place. Pay attention and recognize first and foremost when your resilience is taking a hit. More possible balance periods of high pressure with opportunities to get into that gray zone and recalibrate. The relationships we talked about, healthy, supportive, setting goals that you're more productive. you're already doing something really cool by choosing to spend 2.5 of your day, hours of your day here today. It really shows a growth mindset and that you're thinking about how to cope and reemerge even stronger. So, let's just do one last poll if we could, Shelby, because the thing is, unless you put some of these behaviors into action, nothing really changes. So what are you going to do to help your team implement healthy resilience behavior? Pick an answer, please, before we let you go today. What's something that really resonates with you as something that you can do? Lots of models and tools presented in this training: the pressure performance curve, the change curve, the mood map, the well-being conversations. All right, let's close the polls, shall we? Just curious what resonated for folks. All of the above. Oh, no answer from 6 of you. All of the above from 4. Role modeling is also really popular as an example. Great. Well, if you took the time to respond, thank you so very much. This is about taking things into action, because if we try to do too much, if everything is a priority, nothing is a priority. So I'd love for you to just think about what you could be doing right away based on what you learned today. And I'll invite you to also share it with your manager and with your teams, right? This is, hey, I'm vulnerable, I'm learning, I'm growing too. Tell them what you're trying to do. Maybe they're going to help you. Share with them what you took from this training session so that you can activate your, I'm going to call them your personal board of directors, to hold you accountable and to help you become more resilient. So in the last 2 minutes that we have, 2 quick things. First is, it says, consider 3 things that you're planning to do. I'd like all of you, please, to put one thing you're planning to do in the chat. Just one. What is one thing that you're planning to do as a result of the conversation today? And then hopefully, once we hang up, you have time to jot down a few more. Because learning without action, there's no return on investment. Thanks for kicking it off, Christina. You're going to use the move map to get people to maybe even, self-identify. This is where I am right now, and this is what I need to do. I love that. The exercise, share key learnings of the training with the team, let go of things I can't control, more regular check-ins. This is amazing, all of you. Thank you. That's fantastic. As RBCers, you have access to so many resources. You can see some on my slide, the Resilience Podcast Series, RBC Wellness, Live and Learn Together. Lots of, and the RBC Employee Care contact info. I'll have Shelby put these in the chat for you. As we are wrapping up, I'm happy to stay to do a bit of a Q&A. The one thing that I do know as well is that we can't get better unless we hear from you. And so the last thing I will ask is that you take a minute or maybe even 30 seconds to answer a few questions and share your feedback with us. Once you're done, you just click on the link, answer the few questions, give us some feedback on today, and then give us a green check mark once you've done that, and then you can go. Look at that, right on time, 4 p.m. ET. So I'm keeping you 30 seconds longer so that you can fill out that survey. And the minute I see your green check mark, I'm going to say thank you very, very much for playing full out today and participating in the conversation. We're very grateful to you for being here, and grateful as well for you to help us continue to improve. So let's see some of those green check marks. I'll stop talking so that you can start thinking and responding. Thanks, Christine. I appreciate your contribution today. Have a great rest of your day. All right, Venkat, thanks for being here as well. Class dismissed for you. Andre, awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Feel free to log off, folks, once you've given me that green check mark. Fantastic. Sharon, awesome. Loved your chat responses. Anita as well. Thanks for being here. All right, Abdul, I see your arrow.
Class dismissed for you too. Shelby, as we are waiting for people to finish respondents, thank you for your excellent producing today. Very grateful to have you on the call with us. And I will let you take it from here as our participants continue to provide that feedback, and see you all next time. Don't forget, lots of resources at your disposal. And Dino, thank you so much. Chidima as well. Paul, appreciate your contributions. Isa, Preet too. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks, Shelby.
No problem. Thank you.
I'm leaving you in charge.
So if everyone's good, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to close the meeting. Thank you, Anthony. We'll see you next time too.